Good Friday, one and all. Marc, Malusis, and Nelson Figueroa with you. It's Figgie and the Moose right here on Pix 11 Plus. Hopefully, everyone out there is having themselves a wonderful week. Got stuff to do got things done on that to-do list if you're a baseball watcher, because you had the Derby Monday night, the All-Star game Tuesday night, off days Wednesday, Thursday. A very, very quiet week. Maybe you're locked into the Summer League. Maybe you're locked into the Open Championship, whatever it might be. But baseball gets back underway tonight, as the Yankees are taking on the Atlanta Braves down in Hotlanta, so they didn't have to go too far. And the Mets, they're home to begin a weekend set against the Cincinnati Reds. So we spent yesterday, Figgy, talking a lot about the Yankees and what they're going to do over the course of the next couple of weeks and what the vision is. The Mets obviously enter the second half, trailing the Philadelphia Phillies by a half game in the National League East, and that looks like it's going to be a dogfight down the stretch. What's your take on what we've seen so far here from the Mets first half? And then we'll get into the vision of David Stearns and Steve Cohen and what you expect over the course of the next couple of weeks.
Well, I've enjoyed seeing what I've seen in the first half. With all the things that have gone wrong in years past, it would have been a disaster. If you started out the season without two of your starters, if you, the bullpen was in shambles at times. I mean, you've had 35 plus pitchers put on a Met uniform this year, just pitchers alone. You would sit back and go, my God, this team would be 15 games out of first place. They're a half game out of first place. Yes, they had a nice 7 at times. I think the most they've had like a 6 or 7 game lead over the Philadelphia Phillies. And we've seen this in baseball. Good teams catch fire and they go on stretch runs and extended stretch runs, depending on in the schedule. If there's a soft spot, and you have to take advantage of it. So as we always say, it doesn't matter who the competition is. You have to beat who's in front of you, and you can't play down to the level of your competition. I saw too much of that at the end of the first half out of the Mets, playing down to the level of their competition when they went to Pittsburgh and got absolutely embarrassed. But I like it. And you know why I like it? Is because it happened in June, and it happened in June. It didn't happen in September. If it happens in September, it's a collapse. If it happens in June, you better learn from it and make sure that it never happens again. And all the way around, from players to coaches to front office, how do we avoid to keep this from happening again? Yes, you lost 2 starters along the way, or 3 starters, right? Because McGill went down, Canning went down, Senga went down. All of a sudden, you're spiraling. You got Paul Blackburn in the mix. He goes down. Every single pitcher, Dunedin Nunez, he went down, and he's looking at Tommy John possibly. All these different things that you see happening, and yet the Mets still figure out how to plug and play, and guys are making the most of their opportunity. How many times have they DFA'd guys and been able to keep them around and bring them back up again? I mean, the usage of, the waiver wire options, all those different things that David Stearns is doing, I feel is a masterful job. And we haven't seen anything at this level, or the ability and the willingness to do this in a long, long time. Of course, we're coming with that, you have some, guaranteed contracts, things of that nature. I don't think you have to even bat an eyelash thinking about things like that if you're David Stearns, because you have an owner like Steve Cohen who says do whatever it takes to keep this thing afloat, and they are doing that. So we didn't see the best of Soto the first 2 months. He's taken off and become the Juan Soto that we expected. Yep. 15 home runs. The months of since May 30th, I think it is. Since May 30th, he had 15 home runs. It puts himself in a really good place, leading the team in home runs, continuing to score runs, finding ways, still looking for big Soto moments to continue to happen. And we see them come, too many times coming up with a chance to change the game in a major way, and not coming up a little short. Lindor's playing with a broken pinky toe. Pete Alonso, he was up and then teetered off a little bit, then came back strongly. All-Star game again, he's in there playing, feels good about his swing, and you love to see a happy Pete Alonso at first base. Marc Vientos ended out the first half showing some semblance of who he was, right? The last 5 games, it started hitting the ball a lot better. Yeah. Again, what was the competition? It was the Baltimore Orioles and the Kansas City Royals. Do it against, the higher levels of competition. Do it against teams. Yeah, good competition. But,
all right. And listen, I think the Mets are healthier when you're looking at that starting rotation for sure.
Yes, Senga back and Manaea.
Right? When you get Senga, Manaea, you liked the way Manaea looked against Kansas City. The fastball had late life. Montas outside of 1 start has been good. You've got Clay Holmes. Peterson was an all-star. So, and then you've got some starting rotation depth when you're looking at it as well. And you want those guys to stay healthy, because if those guys stay healthy, that's a really good starting five when you're looking at Major League Baseball, right? And I think when you look at the top three or top two, if you're looking at a combination top three of, Senga, Minaya, David Peterson, that's pretty good. I mean, that's really good. And you can go to battle with that, right? So that's a positive when you look at the Mets. Let's talk a little bit about like Vientos. Second half of this podcast, they will get into like the vision. What do the Mets need to go out there and do? Vientos or Alvarez? Let me ask you that. Who do you think has a bigger second half for the New York Mets? Marc Vientos or Francisco Alvarez? Alvarez got sent down, has handled the demotion well, is raking down in AAA. They didn't like his attitude or the laziness behind home plate, his approach up at the plate. They needed to send a message. He's still an awfully young catcher, once touted as the best prospect in all of Major League Baseball from the catching position. Who do you think has a more impactful second half for the Mets?
I would love to say both, but that's not the answer. I think the more impactful is going to be a rejuvenated Francisco Alvarez, because of the catching position being so important. Luis Torrens, we know what Luis Torrens is if he plays every single day, right? We know he wears down. And so even Alvarez in a split role is going to have a tremendous opportunity to help this team in a, pitch by pitch kind of thing, where he comes up here more motivated. He went back to his old batting stance. He looks more comfortable. And we know this for professional athletes that are so good at doing what they do. It feels like sometimes the focus gets unilateral, right? When they let their hitting affect their defense, they let their defense affect their hitting, and vice versa, right? Depending on, you're a human being. So depending on how you're feeling is how you're doing. So I think that's something that with Alvarez, we're seeing it. And yes, it's in the minor leagues, but it's still 97, 98 mile an hour fastballs. It's still nasty sliders. And we're seeing him have those aggressive hacks and not trying to place the ball in right center field, not trying to guide the ball, and then using the JD Martinez approach or stance and everything else. But go back to his, beast mode mentality of, I'm going to swing for the fences. Because when he does hit the ball, this is a guy that I would say over and over again, we were watching it at Citi Field, and it comes up on, inside the press room. While they're taking batting practice, it has the exit velocity. And in batting practice, this guy didn't hit a ball under 105 miles an hour in batting practice. Normally guys are like, just getting their stroke down, just working their hands a little bit. No, he's letting it eat from the word go. And so it's an impressive thing to see. Now harnessing that so that you don't go swinging and chasing things out of the zone is the biggest thing. And for a catcher, you think the strike zone the same way, but it's a different perspective. So I think he's going to have the bigger impact in the second half because of where he bats in the lineup. I think being lower down in the lineup, they need somebody to be that spark, and he's going to be that spark, because after you get past the first six, it's a little daunting for a pitcher, right? And you can pitch around that sixth guy and maybe put him on and say, oh, here comes Alvarez in the 7-hole. And this guy has that kind of swing that changes ball games. And we just haven't seen enough of it this year. He has it in him. We just got to see him make that adjustment.
Right. I'll give a little love to Vientos. That he is a little bit better of a second half than Alvarez. I think you can go either way. I think it's kind of like pick your poison, but kind of like I think
it's a win-win. I think it's a win-win.
I think it's a good debate, a good conversation.
Yes.
I'll go Vientos because I want to believe what we saw last year was real. Because what we saw last year was a remarkable young player that honestly I didn't think got handled well by the organization, the previous regime, and that minded his P's and Q's, finally got the opportunity, took advantage of that opportunity. The times we're out at Citi Field, gregarious guy, nice guy. You have conversations with him each and every time that we're out there, and and a easy guy to go out there and root for. Talked about being humble during the course of the first half. Clearly, the league went to work on Marc Vientos during the course of the offseason. And then once one team has a little bit of success, another team kind of obviously with their advanced scouts builds off of that, Figgy. I'm going to go on the idea that Vientos, that he closed out the first half looking really significantly better. Not necessarily back to the player he was last year, but significantly better than what we've seen for the majority when healthy in half number one. And if he's able to get on track and become that caliber of player, I'll be honest with you, like if you're a Met fan, I think you're probably rooting for Vientos more than Alvarez, because I think Vientos showed himself to be a lot more impactful at the peak of his game than Francisco Alvarez did. Not saying Alvarez hasn't had home runs or hit home runs,
Yep.
but when Vientos hit those home runs, meaningful home runs against big time pitchers in the postseason, like those are the things, like I said, like that's something that's not measured on an analytic spreadsheet. That's not measured on everything. Like either you have that or you don't. To be able, we get into the conversation talking about Aaron Judge all the time. One of the big benefits of Juan Soto is not just what he is as a regular season player, but the fact that he's had big and impactful moments in October. Did with the Nats, did last year with the Yankees, and Met fans hope that he's going to do that for the next 15 years in Queens with the New York Mets. You saw that last year with Vientos, and I think if he is able to get on track in the second half, I mean, and get to the level that he was a year ago, or even 85, 90% of the level that he was a year ago, you're adding like, not only, I mean, you're adding a young, dynamic power threat in that lineup that I don't think you can necessarily go out there. I don't think you can go get, outside of Suarez, the caliber player in a trade that Vientos was in the second half, not just the second half, for the entire year, where three quarters of the year, a season to go for the Mets.
Yeah, not all hits are the same, right? They always say, oh, it's a line drive in the books. You know, you see a guy hit a blooper, a broken bat single. Not all hits are the same, right? When he hits the ball all over the field, the line drives that he hits are impressive. When you talk about not all home runs are the same, it's when you hit those home runs, right? You got an eighth inning home run off of a guy who shouldn't even be in the game, then he hits a home run, now great. But when he's hitting them against closers, he's hitting them against the best setup men in baseball with runners in scoring position, after they, walk a guy like Pete Alonso, and like, yeah, I'll go after the rookie. And he just stands up even taller in the moment. In Philadelphia, hits that absolute bomb to give them the lead. That this is the type of player that you thought you were going to get on a day in and day out basis. And, talking to him countless number of times about dealing with the ups and downs as you're trying to establish yourself as a major league player. And I sat there and I spoke with him very candidly. He's number 27, just as I was. And I said, it makes me smile when I see that number on him, because I know what he's been through. I know what it's like to come up to the big leagues and get sent down without even getting an opportunity. Remember that first time he came up, he sat around for 10 days, didn't even get that bat. So you get somebody's always a little bit better. There's always a sexier option. But when he went back down to AAA, all he did was rake. He hit, close to 300. He would hit 24, 25 home runs. And there's no difference. If you can hit home runs in the minor leagues, you can hit home runs in the big leagues. It's all about being able to recognize what teams are doing to you and finding a way to cover up your weaknesses, and your strengths are your strengths. So taking advantage of when you get that pitch to hit, you don't miss it. And we saw that in the first half. He was missing a lot of pitches he should have hit. He was missing a lot of opportunities to drive the ball, 92 mile an hour slider that was sitting in the middle of the plate. Yeah, they're going breaking ball heavy on him, because if you look at his stats, he's weaker against the breaking ball. He's a fastball killing machine, but you can't throw a fastball fast enough to get by him. But as he's starting to guessing, worst place a hitter can be is guessing. Yeah. When you've got a hitter guessing at what's coming, you've got him, because hitting is the hardest thing to do in sports. The ball moving at 90 plus miles an hour, and you have no idea where it's going to end up. And maybe he throws a slider, maybe he throws a changeup, maybe he elevates the fastball, maybe he throws it at my head. I never know. And that's the beautiful part about pitching, is I have the advantage of, I know what I'm doing with it. He doesn't know what I'm doing with it. So I always have to look at it from a hitter's perspective. And when I see swings that just look in between, like caught off guard by, damn it, I was guessing fastball and I got a curveball. Oh, I'm definitely sitting on curveball, and a fastball comes middle in, and you don't even pull the trigger on. You're sitting there just bewildered. And that is the one thing. It's like an avalanche. It's a snowball that continues to grow, and then it gets bigger and bigger. And then you're sitting there at the bottom and you're looking at an 0 for 20, with a lot of K's looking, and you're like, you need a hot shower, which could wash it all away, but it's not enough. So we saw a lot of that on Marc Vientos, and he's too talented of a hitter. And I listen, I could have taken Vientos, I could have taken Alvarez, but to me, the thing with Vientos is that the Mets, in Vientos' absence, have found they like some Beatty. They like them some Mauricio.
Yeah.
And so what are you going to do with that? Are you just going to get rid of Mauricio or Beatty?
That's fair. That's fair.
So
and listen,
right. So then he's talking about being the right-handed DH, right? For a young player. Now he's going to maybe DH because his glove is not a strong suit. So now he's going to be asked to DH a little bit more, which means Starling Marte is going to be taking a backseat and being a pinch hitter. So all those things kind of factor in. And then once your focus is purely about hitting, the only way I can help out the team is to come through with big hits.
Yeah,
and we've seen it before. So I think, well, maybe that works for him. Maybe that unilateral focus can help him as well. So we'll see what happens in the second half.
Maybe some of that logjam gets cleaned up at the MLB trade deadline. We'll get into what David Stern, Steve Cohen, Carlos Mendoza, what the Mets as an organization hope to accomplish in the next couple of weeks, what they need to address as they begin the second half later on tonight, entertaining the Cincinnati Reds out in Queens. We'll do that next. It's Figgie and the Moose on this Friday right here on Pix 11 Plus. Welcome back to Figgie and the Moose. Marc, Malusis, Nelson Figueroa with you right here on Pix 11 Plus. Make sure to check out Sports Nation Nightly each and every night, 7 p.m. on Pix 11. All the New York sports that you need each and every night. We got you covered. Great insight, great debate, great conversation, great opinions, great guests. It's a fantastic show. Make sure to check it out. Figgy, we've done a lot of Mets, and we're going to continue that conversation. Needs for this Met team, you know, when the MLB trade deadline, July 31st, 6 p.m., what does this Met team need to do? They need an everyday center fielder. Tyrone Taylor, love him, love his attitude. Masseri did a great interview, Joe, that is, for Pix 11 a number of weeks ago out in Queens, out at Citi Field before a series. Good guy, great defensive player, just can't hit. They also need bullpen help. I mean, that's where, you know, and there's going to be a lot of teams that need bullpen help. And I think if you're the Mets here, you sign Juan Soto, $765 million. They've got a farm system. We talked about the Yankees yesterday. The Yankees don't have an overwhelming farm system teeming with upper echelon talent. Well, the Mets do. The Mets have got one of the better farm systems in all of Major League Baseball. There was a goal of Steve Cohen when he took over as owner of this team. And he's got players. He's got players, and he's got infielders. He's got outfielders. He's got pitchers. He's got starter. They've got a lot that if they want to go out there in the deep end of the pool come July 31st and go out there and make a big time trade and a big time acquisition and go get, say, an upper echelon reliever to pair up with Edwin Diaz. Or maybe it's not Byron Buxton, probably not, because he's got a no-trade clause, has no interest in leaving the Minnesota Twins. You want to go out there and get yourself an upgrade over Tyrone Taylor at center field? You can. Now the question is, Figgy, do you think the Mets will?
They love Taylor and for his defensive prowess alone, right? So you feel like whether he's starting or he's coming off the bench, sure. Jeff McNeil has played center field, and they've been okay with that, and it's been serviceable, right? So you talk about a bat that can still play center field. McNeil has done an adequate job. Is he Gold Glove caliber? No. So then you can move around, bring Tyrone in whenever. Tyrone Taylor in whenever he is needed as the defensive replacement. I feel if you can get the right player, there's rumors about Luis Roberts. He's a tremendous young talent that is just wasting away, and I think kind of got into that mold of where he's at with the White Sox organization. Because his first year he was awesome, and since then it's kind of just been like playing because he's in this quagmire of bad baseball. I think he'd be rejuvenated to have an opportunity to play for a team like the New York Mets. And what are you willing to give up in that? Yes, the Mets are teaming with young prospects that are now at that AA, AAA level where you can see them.
A lot. I mean, he's hitting $190. I mean,
I get it. But the thing is, we've seen guys just a move can really help spark you. I think Jazz Chisholm was batting. What was he batting last year when the Yankees went out and got him? I don't think he was batting very high when they went out and got him. But it's just, I think he and Jazz famously said, what did he say? I love a team that comes to the ballpark wanting to win. I want to play to win. he said that about, like as if the Miami Marlins didn't want to win. So they're not going to have to give up much if they are to go get Roberts. I think it'd be a move. Buxton would make a unbelievable upgrade for them and just really, really be a huge, huge smash. And what you're willing to give up for the Minnesota Twins, if he has a no trade clause, but if somehow you can get him to bite, we've seen no trade clauses get thrown away several times over with Hall of Fame caliber players from the Mets when they went out and they got Luis Angel Acuna from the Texas Rangers. So you could see it. Exactly what they need to do.
Right.
What
I think I'll be honest with you, and I think they need an everyday center fielder or an upgrade over time.
Yes. No. They can use that.
At the top of my list, though, Figgy, they need relief help. I mean,
yes.
They need quality arms in the back end of that bullpen, and probably multiple guys, whether it be injury, whether it be fatigue, whether it be overuse, being overtaxed, whatever it might be, lack of talent. I mean, the Mets, and that's got to be at the top of the list. And I'll be honest with you, if you shop in the bargain basement and try and hope to strike and lightning strike, take advantage of the opportunity. You don't know what the future is of Pete Alonso. He's going to opt out in the season. You have no idea what happens with Alonso. You really don't. We've talked about the Mets trail the Phillies by half game in the National League East. It'd be massively disappointing if you're not a playoff team this year. You should be.
Yeah.
Go out there and attack, because you never know what any given year looks like. And I know you need some other things. You need Senga to stay healthy. You need Benaya to stay healthy, Montas to stay healthy. I get all that. If all three of those guys go down to injury, then this is not much of a conversation. You can't replace all three of those guys. So, I mean, they're going to die on the vine. So you're going to go on the idea that spin it positive, but they need reliever help. If you're asking me top of my list for the New York Mets, I'd like to replace Taylor. And I agree with you about Buxton. Roberts, an interesting name from the Chicago White Sox, maybe rejuvenated. We're a long way away, 2 years away from when he hit 38 home runs and had 80 RBIs and hit 265 and looked like a burgeoning star in Major League Baseball. I have to get some dominant back-end help for this team.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that you can never have too many dynamic arms at the back of the bullpen. And we've seen a guy like Stanek, who throws 100 miles an hour with a 91, 92 mile an hour split, be fantastic at times. We've seen him, just stink up the yard at times. We've seen Brazoban, who, we were like, man, this guy's been so consistent. He's pitched to almost a 15 ERA in his last, I think, 2 weeks. He's his last 2 weeks worth of outings, last 15 games, he's pitched a 15 ERA, which is, you talk about a run an inning. It's very difficult for these guys. Almost 2 runs an inning. You really have to focus on who's coming back. So Brooks Raley's supposed to be back shortly. That gives you a left-handed guy coming out of the pen. Now, is he a flame-throwing guy? No, he's a specialist, a breaking ball guy, a slower thrower who knows his craft. So having a veteran presence like him in the bullpen helps. But you've got to get some help for Edwin Diaz. And I am still of the ilk, and I know they have him, Clay Holmes, signed up to be the starting pitcher. If there was a way to push, and even if it's to get him a breather for a little while, because he's way past whatever innings he thought he was going to have himself at the major league level. I could see Clay Holmes sliding into a relief role if need be, right? Easily being the slide into that slot, because the team has the need.
Not necessarily I could see that in October. Do you necessarily?
Oh yeah. No. In October, Montas and Clay Holmes, I could see being thrown to the bullpen, and then your bullpen is really stacked, right? But for the foreseeable future, if you can get the Brooks Raley comes back, that's one of your lefties. They needed another guy that they can count on. They need another guy that can come in here and not be a what do we have from him today kind of pitcher. We've seen Reed Garrett, same kind of thing. We've seen him be so good for so long, and then you start to see the wheels fall off a little bit. And how do they gather themselves? We saw them have a 3-day break because of rain and everything else before the All-Star break. We saw the All-Star break come. So they've had plenty of rest, these guys, to have a little bit of a recharge. So Reed Garrett, Stanek, Brazoban is, to me, the only kind of iffy one that I have not liked the way he's pitched lately. Edwin Diaz, of course, has been fantastic. But if I could get myself a back end guy, and I don't even know who's available because there's so many teams that still feel like they're in the mix. So it's very difficult to pry away a top tier arm unless you're going to wow them with a deal to, of a prospect and it's not just for a rental.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I think it's going to be fascinating. I don't think there's a ton of confidence among Met fans that David Stearns is going to be aggressive and willing to get uncomfortable at the MLB trade deadline. If he isn't, I'll be honest with you. I'll tell you, I think it's a little bit of a mistake. I think any given year, you never know what's going to happen. And you got to take advantage of an opportunity that is in front of you. The Mets are going to, it'd be massively disappointing, Figgy, if the Mets are not a playoff team. They will be. Now the question is just how dangerous are they going to be, and what is really a wide open National League. I mean, there are going to be people right now. I think the Mets, the latest odds I think I saw was 13, 14 to 1 to win the World Series. I mean, that's great value. But you got the Mets, you got the Phillies, you got the Cubs, you got the Brewers, obviously you got the Dodgers, Padres, or the Giants. I mean, it is going to be a fun playoffs when you're looking at the complexion of the National League. And I think the Mets have got to go out there and address the issues. And I think they will.
Yeah, and you start playing GM in your head. I even, like I just said about Clay Holmes, it's been fun, the Clay Holmes experiment. Don't get me wrong, but I haven't seen his fastball top 94 miles an hour in a long time.
Yeah.
This is a guy who used to sit at 98 plus with that bowling ball sinker, and he's gone to a lot of changeups and a lot of breaking balls as he's getting through 5 innings. Then you're trying to, the finish line seems to be getting further and further for those 5 innings each and every time out. But I love what he's done. His ability as a pitcher, a pure pitcher, has been remarkable. Now, if I'm able to get Seth Lugo away from the Royals and plug him into the rotation and push Clay Holmes down to be my 8th inning guy, I think that's a tremendous win-win in a way that you can get, in a way that that to me is a sexier option than going out and finding some reliever and maybe overpaying. If you can get somebody like Seth Lugo, where Seth Lugo's history is the same thing as well, right? He can be a starter, who can be a reliever, and he has.
Yeah. And Lugo,
but now he's
Lugo
be a
starter, and now he's really good with Kansas City. I like that. That's a pretty good idea. I like that in terms of going out there and getting Lugo. All right. Well, baseball's back. It's good that it's back. Mets, Reds later on tonight out in Queens. Yankees open up a series down in Atlanta against the Braves. And that does it for this edition of Figgie and the Moose. Thanks for watching, tuning in throughout the course of the week. Make sure to check us out 7 p.m. tonight on Sports Nation Nightly. Have yourself a wonderful Friday. For Nelson Figueroa, I'm Marc Malusis. This has been Figgie and the Moose.